On the night of September 16, 1967, Jeannie Seely marked a very important milestone in her music career by joining the world-famous Grand Ole Opry. Known as Miss Country Soul, she became the first, and to date, the only Pennsylvania native to become an Opry member. She is truly an American country music artist, legend, songwriter, author, actor, producer, Grammy Award winner, and now recently bestowed an honorary doctorate of arts from Lincoln Memorial University. Beloved Jeannie Seely, a member of the Grand Ole Opry, has graced the stage for over 55 years as a performer and a regular host. Her life and music has touched the hearts around the world. This is her story of unshakable faith. This is today's Nashville. Jeannie, it is such a blessing to be here today at your beautiful home, looking over the river. What an honor it is to be able to sit down. You are an amazing country music legend.
Well, thank you, Terry, and welcome to Pennsyltucky, as we jokingly call it, and here on the bank of the Cumberland River, which is just, I think, Gene and I, my husband and I went on a trip recently. When we came in, I walked through the house and saw this and said, Gene, why did we go anywhere? I didn't see a thing on my trip that I liked better than this.
It's just
I
beautiful.
love it here, and I'm so glad to have you here with us.
Thank you. I noticed your sign when we pulled up, Pencil Husky. You are from Pennsylvania.
I am.
And our crew comes from Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh.
Meant to be.
Meant to be. In fact, when we went back into production, very first thing I said is I have to have Jeannie Seely on the show. So what an honor. So tell me about the time. Let's go back to Pennsylvania, where you grew up, and where it all started.
All started in Titusville, Pennsylvania, where I was born. Then I grew up way out in the country, outside a little town called Townville. It's where I graduated school. And we were country because our little farm bordered the Pennsylvania State Game Reserve land, so there was miles of wilderness beyond us. And of course our entertainment was like everybody growing up in the country. Some of the neighbors and uncles and everybody played guitars or fiddles, and that was our entertainment. Then the Grand Ole Opry on Saturday night. So we always listened to the Opry as far back as I can remember.
How old were you when you started listening to your...
Mother said I was about 4 when I found that spot on the dial, and that I couldn't understand why every time I turned that dial there, I couldn't hear the Grand Ole Opry. And I still don't understand. We should be able to hear the Grand Ole Opry anytime.
Oh,
and aren't
true.
we living in a wonderful age now? This age of technology, we can hear anything we want any time of the day or night. We're just very blessed.
And you have a program on XM every week.
I do.
I know.
Yeah. Willie's Roadhouse, that was just such a gift when they contacted me about doing the show. I actually auditioned without knowing it. They had asked me to roast Charlie Monk for a Music Health Alliance fundraiser. And of course, any time I can fire a shot at Charlie Monk, I love it. Everybody loves the mayor of Music Row. So anyway, he kept shooting lines to me. Every time I would say something, he'd try to fire back from his seat, and I got him back every time. So that's when the powers that be with Sirius XM were there, and I didn't even know it. And
so that's on every Saturday evening?
Every
Sunday evening.
The show's called Sundays with Seely, and it airs Eastern time from noon to 4, and now they are re-airing it from midnight to 4 in the morning, which is wonderful because it gives me all the nighttime audience including truck drivers, which we love and appreciate so much. Plus, it gives me the West Coast because that's earlier evening listening time.
Well, let's go back again. So you're in Pennsylvania. How did you get to Nashville?
I took the long way around to Nashville. Actually, I didn't leave Pennsylvania to get in the entertainment business, even though I had been singing since I was a kid. I started doing radio at 11 and started working with a dance band at 13. But my first car was a 1958 MGA Roadster, and I buried it in a snowdrift on Easter Sunday morning, trying to get home to go to church with my family. Walking home, ruined my new Easter shoes and thinking there's got to be someplace else to live. So I had seen Southern California on TV and it looked pretty cool to me, and I could drive with my top down. So anyway, I was pretty cool with this MG, bright red MG, and then this girl moved back home from West Virginia driving a 1960 Austin Healey. And I'm like, I can either hate this woman forever or we can become friends. So we chose that route. And the two of us made the plans, and we drove those two sports cars from northwestern Pennsylvania to Southern California, straight to Santa Monica Beach.
What'd you do when you got there?
The Lord sent a zillion angels following us because, you know, we didn't have cell phones. We had no way to stay in touch. We weren't smart enough to think. At 21, you don't think what could go wrong. We didn't even have a plan of what happened if we got separated, which did happen outside of St. Louis, on the good side of St. Louis. So I really felt like I was in the lead at that point, and so we got through and we went up this hill, and there was a truck stop that was set down there. So my cousin Roy was riding with me. I said, let's park the MG up here. When they come by, they will see it and they'll know. So that's what we did. We walked down the truck stop, and pretty soon I was getting nervous, saying a bunch of prayers, and pretty soon I heard that Austin Healey come roaring in, because it did work. They saw the car and knew that we had stopped there. So from that point on, we had a plan. What if we get separated again? Maybe the Lord wouldn't be as nice the next time.
Well, what did you do when you got to Los Angeles?
When we got to L.A., the first thing we did, of course, was find an apartment, and all started looking for jobs. And my education had been in banking, so that was the first thing I did. I had a wonderful letter from the president of the bank in Pennsylvania, and which led me to get my first job at Union Bank in Beverly Hills.
Jeannie, you took the job at the bank, but it led you to Nashville. How in the world did that happen?
Well, you know, growing up in Pennsylvania, they always said this is a great hobby, but you can't make a living doing this. And there I couldn't. There weren't opportunities. But I'm working at the bank in the daytime, and every night I'm going to one of these country music places. There were so many, and plus the coffee houses back then in the 60s. That
So
were,
you knew you wanted to be a country music artist.
I knew that at 8 years old.
Okay.
I knew what I wanted to do, and I actually knew where I wanted to be, so it took a long way around. But anyway, I saw so many people doing it, and I thought, I want to make a record. How do you do that? Then one day, this message was sent to me. Looked at the newspaper, there was an ad for a secretary at Liberty Records. So I thought, what better way to learn how to make a record? So I quit the bank and went to work at Liberty Records for less than half of what I was making. But I got the education I was looking for. And I also started meeting people I could network with. And it's amazing when people know what your goals are and what you want, and they see you're sincere and willing to work for it. It's wonderful how many people will help you and open doors for you.
How did you get to Nashville?
Well, I saw that Dottie West was going to appear at the Palomino Club, and I had become a Dottie West fan still in Pennsylvania when she appeared on the Landmark Jamboree out of Cleveland. So I went to the show, and afterward I went up to meet her, and I told her about and she said, I don't even remember the last time I met anybody who remembered the Landmark Jamboree. An immediate friendship was bonded there. So Dottie encouraged me to move. Also, I landed a spot on a local television show out there, and a lot of artists from Nashville were coming out there to be on the show. Hank Cochran was one of them. Mm-hmm. And Hank was impressed with, he said, you're the first female artist that I've met that has the emotion of Patsy Cline, but you're not trying to sound like her. And that is a good thing. He said, I'd like to work with you, but I can't you got to come to Nashville if you're going to be serious. So that's when I started saving money, and I had that step into Nashville. Also, I was writing for 4-Star Music in California, and their, quote, Girl Friday was leaving the 4-Star office here, and they offered me the job. So that cinched it, knowing I had a way to make a living.
Let's talk about your hits.
Well, I've been very blessed. There's no question.
Yes, many.
I read something about me recently that I knew it before, but it hadn't clicked, where I had a #1 record as a solo artist, as a duet artist, and as a songwriter. And I thought, man, any one of those are just a gift, a blessing. So I've been very, very fortunate. I was very fortunate to get a song as strong as Don't Touch Me to start my career, and for that to become my signature song, because I couldn't imagine a song that was kind of gimmicky and that you'd have to live with it for 50-some years later.
Who inspired you? I mean, what inspired you? Or was it a person, or did behind that song, Don't Touch Me?
Well, actually, Fred Foster had told Hank and me that he would sign me and we'd go in and record if we found the right song. So we were listening to song after song, and it just didn't seem like the one. Hank started writing this. I was on the road with Porter Wagner, and we were in Rochester, New York. And Hank was somewhere in Indiana, as a matter of fact, and he called me and he said, I've just written this, what do you think about this? And he sang me the first verse. And he had me at the first line. I loved the description. All of a sudden I could see someone's emotions, everything, when it said, your hand is like a torch each time you touched me. And I thought, man, what a tender, sexy, emotional thing.
I think a lot of your songs are like that.
What?
I think a lot of your songs are full of emotion.
Well, I look for that. I really do, because I think that's what music is meant to do. Mm-hmm. That's the language that we all understand, and so it's supposed to make us feel something. But anyway, so he said, well, I'm gonna come up there. So he flew to Rochester and actually we finished the song in my dressing room that night. So
let's talk more about Nashville. And you came to Nashville and graced the stage of the Grand Ole Opry. What was that like?
Well, actually, that was this past May 28th, and Friday night was 55 years to the exact day that I made my debut at the Opry. And somebody asked me the other day, how does that feel? I said, every emotion you can imagine or have ever felt goes through your body and mind, I think, at a time like that. It was something that you were almost afraid to dream of ever happening, and now it's happening. And I was watching some of the Olympics and hearing them saying, this is the Olympics. Well, the Grand Ole Opry was kind of like the Olympics for me.
Well, I have to ask you, How do you feel every time you walk out on the Grand Ole Opry? Does the feelings change, or do you get used to it, or?
Well, it never gets old, I can tell you that. Maybe I'm not as nervous as I was in the beginning, but I'm always excited. And I think now even more what I can feel is an absolute sense of pride.
Well, my husband and I recently saw you at the Grand Ole Opry, and you sang a song that was just beautiful, if you would call it that.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
That song was started by Dottie West, my friend, and my friend Ron Harmon had some of Dottie's memorabilia, and he found this journal where she had started writing this song. And so he took it to Bobby Tomberlin and Steve Wariner. It just hit him so strong. And I truly think that Bobby and Steve finished this song the way Dottie would have. And you talk about a God thing, and the inside cover of that journal, it said Jeannie Seely, 824-7011, which was my old telephone number back years ago. So we took that, it was meant for me to have the song to record, and I'm so grateful.
Well, share the meaning behind it.
Well, you know, I think that was kind of like a mantra for Dottie West, because I heard her say it several times. There were a lot of ups and downs in Dottie's life, as there are in most of our lives, if we're honest. But you'd say, "How you doing, Dottie?" And she'd say, "I just go on living," if you could call it that.
Jeannie, as I was looking over all your awards, your #1, your accolades, your Grammys, I have to ask you, you are not in the Country Hall of Fame. I want to know why, and how can we get you there?
Well, I don't know the answer to that. We're working on it. I think a lot of things, you have to keep working. You have to make sure people are aware that you're still, when you reach my age, you know, the first thing is, she's still working, is she still doing? So we're trying to make sure I'm visible. Thank you for helping us do that. I think that when you talk about the Country Music Hall of Fame, it is the epitome, and it's like, some people may look at that as that it's an ego thing, and that's not, to me, what it is at all. First of all, it is a validation, if you will, of your life's work, you know, what you've tried to do. And in my case, I would like, if it can happen, I'd like for it to happen while I can still be active, because I truly believe that every level you get to, every platform you're given, is an opportunity to use it somehow, not just to sit back and say, I have this. It's an opportunity, and certainly the stage of the Grand Ole Opry has been one for me.
You've been there for many years.
Many years.
You host it.
Right, and even the Willie's Roadhouse is another platform to reach people, to hear from people that don't get out that much and say, Sundays used to be so long, but now I look forward to them because I'm spending it with you. That's the kind of thing I'm thinking, that if I could be a part of the Country Music Hall of Fame while I'm still active, I can use that as a platform to encourage other people to say, here again, this is the highest of dreams, don't ever give up, and to keep following that and keep working towards your goal.
You know, I love what you stand for. I love that you made sure that the American flag was on the stage. A lot of people don't know that you were the one behind that.
Yeah.
And you have a book here. I want to read a little bit here. And it's so relevant for today. It says, we don't always agree. We don't always approve. We don't always understand. We don't have to. We're friends. And that is so true. We just need to...
That's what a true friend is, don't you think? You don't expect everybody to agree with you on everything, or to think we don't all like the same foods even. So but we're friends. We don't have to. We don't have to always agree on everything. We just have to make sure we stay friends.
And you know, God has taken you through some trials, some journeys.
Yes, He has.
This beautiful home was flooded.
Mm-hmm.
And tell me about that. Tell me about your faith and what God has done in restoring your home. And
I think part of that flood was to remind me that never to take material things too seriously, never take yourself too seriously, and to keep a sense of humor, because boy, we sure had to. It was funny because right after the flood, I'm on the stage of the Opry, and I said, well, the first night, actually the flood happened on a Sunday night. Tuesday I was scheduled for the Opry, and of course the Grand Ole Opry House was flooded too, so they had the Opry down at town at the War Memorial. So I come in and they're looking at me and said, what are you doing here? You just lost your home and everything 2 days ago. And I said, well, I was scheduled for the show, number one, and number two, it's not as though I could sit home and watch TV. It's all
you lost
gone.
everything?
So, yeah. I mean, we had 3 foot of water up here. So anyway, it never occurred to me. So anyway, I told the audience, I said, I have realized through this how absolutely wonderful and kind people are. People has come up to me and say, Jeannie, what do you need right now? And I said, Botox. FEMA doesn't pay for Botox, gang. Even flood insurance doesn't pay for Botox.
oh, Jeannie, that's hilarious. Tell me some other one-liners that you have, because you get on that stage and you can make people laugh. And we need a laughter today, don't we?
We have to laugh. We have to laugh. Well, my best friend Carolyn, that I tell so many of my stories about, some of them are true, some I made up, but she lived down the street, and of course she lost her home. And the first day I walked down there and I see all her family heirloom quilts and everything, and all this mud and everything, and I knew if I said the wrong thing, we would both lose it and start crying, and we didn't need to go there. So I looked around. She said, what do you think? And I said, truthfully, I thought you were a better housekeeper than this.
Oh, Jeannie. So, Jeannie, tell me about what's next. You're working on some new music.
Oh, yes, always going to be working on new music. Another thing that's happened for me recently, I've kind of got back into songwriting, and I'm glad of that, because for a while I just got away from that. I had a lot of personal situation I had to deal with, and taking care of business, and sometimes the creative gets put on the back burner while you take care of this is serious business here. So I'm glad to have that back. I was thrilled to write a #1 record for Rhonda Vincent recently in the bluegrass field. And that came about because the new style of writing here in town is set writer appointments, which I was intimidated to do, because I thought, how do you know if you can think of anything creative 2 months from now? But Bobby Tomberlin and Aaron Enderlin encouraged me. They said, you've got to write with us. You can't be intimidated. We don't come up with anything. We go to lunch and forget it. So when I had the idea for Like I Could, I called them and said, if you like it, let's go ahead and set that appointment. So that was a first too, and it came together so quick. And then I just was telling Rhonda the story, and she said, would you sing it to me? So I did, and so she said, I think that needs to go on my next session.
Wow.
So,
and you have the American Classic.
An American Classic.
And you're working with a new song with
Done.
Willie Nelson.
Oh, yeah, I got a duet coming out with Willie Nelson.
Oh, that's going to be so
Yes,
exciting.
We're all excited about that at Willie's Roadhouse, so it is a family affair.
And that'll be out soon?
It's a great song written by another air personality on Willie's Roadhouse, Dallas Wayne, wrote the song. So it's called There's Not a Dry Eye in the House Since You've Been Gone.
I can't wait to hear it.
So excited.
Jeannie, I am so honored. Thank you so much for sharing your life, your faith, and what God is doing in your life. You're blessing so many people when you walk on that stage. We just love you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for considering me important enough to be a part of your project. It's wonderful.
You're one of my first
doing.
calls. So
thank you.
My friend, is rain pouring down on your life and you just don't know what to do? You know, our Lord is in control. He's sovereign. Let Him reign on your white picket fence so that you can share your story of unshakable faith with others that will give Him honor and glory. This is today's Nashville. This is faith. I'll see you next time.
Cornerstone Television wishes to thank all our faithful viewers whose consistent prayers and financial support have made this program possible.